Linda, are you there?
Yes, Chair. Can you hear us? Go ahead, Chair. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Lusaka Avocado Cooperative Training. We are just waiting for engineer to display his presentation, and he will soon be joining us. Thank you.
Kindly enable screen share.
Oh, yes, sir. It's done, sir. We can see your screen, sir. Engineer seems to have dropped off. He is trying to rejoin. Thank you.
Any updates while we wait?
That's a good one. Mr. Piri, have you got any updates, or Mr. Choa? If you unmute yourselves. Mr. Piri, you are on mute, sir. Maybe if you could unmute and give some updates on Kawamba, I would appreciate it. And Helen, do you have any updates you'd like to share? I'm trying to see who the board members are here. Or Dr. Shimoga. Oh, there we go.
Well, Linda, are you able to get me?
Yes, Chair.
Thank you
But
very much.
you're very low, though.
Sorry about the signal and all these things. So in terms of the objective of the study on family enterprise, number one is basically to understand the place of family enterprise in the global market, and also to unlock reasons why family-run enterprises in Zambia have not flourished much. And then learning from what's happening in some countries across the globe, propose some remedies on what we can do to build family enterprises that go beyond the third generation in the avocado sector. So we'll begin by defining family enterprise, basically a family business that is as the majority voting right that is managed by a controlling family. And this could be the founders or to whom they may have passed on the business. So that's the definition of the family enterprises. So it's passed on from family to family over the generation. And this is what I've found globally in terms of statistics and also
Sir, your volume has dropped off. Engineer Chiwala, we are unable to hear you, sir. Okay.
keep dropping. Sorry about that.
No problem, sir.
And the USA stands at 63% in terms of family enterprise. I was quite surprised to see that indeed family enterprise also play a pivotal role. Latin America, 60, German, 57. We also observe that in the Middle East, 30% of family business in the middle never make it to the second generation. There's a proverb from China which says, paddy rice to paddy rice in the third generation. I'm observing and learning that wealth is created in the first generation, and in most cases, it is lost within the third generation. So there are certain things that families fail to do in the third generation that all they will have built, you will not find anything. We are noticing or learning that most farming businesses have a very short lifespan. And in some cases, we've noted that 95% of those family businesses do not survive the third generation. There's something significant about the third generation and what happens there. And this problem is due to a lack of preparation for the subsequent generations to handle the demands of a growing business. Families who are wealth creators are normally first generation. When they become prosperous, one of the key problems is that they begin to stop helping their children to do the very things that brought them where they are. In a sense, they begin to spoil their kids instead of passing on some values that they had picked that brought them where they are. So that's one of the reasons. The other reason is that they focus on financial capital other than the two other great assets that are key for building generational wealth. And those two are, one, human capital within the family, and number two, intellectual capital. That is the things they know. For example, the people who run the KFC, they have a formula of that chicken, the Coca-Cola people, that they've kept over generations, which gives them the competitive advantage. And that's what they fail to do, those that flounder within the third generation. But it's also good to note and learn that family-owned companies outperform their non-family counterparts in terms of sales, profits, and other growth measures. That's the good news. And the Thomson Financial Study on Newsweek compared family firms to rivals on 6 major indexes in Europe, and they were top. And the reason is why family enterprise would perform better than the other is the issue of ownership, because there is a direct relationship between ownership and performance, because they bring to that business all they have because it's theirs, unlike hired hands. Here are some of the examples of the global brands that are family run: Ford Motor Corporation, Samsung, Walmart, Fiat Group in Italy, Hyundai, Siemens, and many others. And these have been there for many years. Ford Motor Corporation, that began just at the dawn of the 1900s and it's still running. And because they have systems, they have family constitutions, they have family charters that define who they are. So they've been able to pass on the wealth from generation to generation. And also in terms of planning horizon, as you see, it is long-term. I also was able to pick a few family-run businesses in Zambia, one of our neighbors in Lusaka, Balmoro Farms. This is the late Simon Zukas.
Engineer, we could hear. Mr. Piri. Mr. Piri.
We have a problem today.
Yes, it looks like it's in a bad area. I'm not too sure.
That's in Kitwe.
Yes, he's in Kitwe. Normally the reception in Kitwe is very good. Last time he presented, it was very clear. So it's a very interesting presentation, especially for those of us with grandchildren.
Well, I've always wondered, should we really leave an inheritance? Should we eat everything, sell when we are almost dying, or what? Other people say when we leave inheritance to our children, they don't take care of it because they feel like, well, I didn't work for it, so let me sell this house, let me sell this land. Others feel like that.
Yes.
So I was hoping to get
remember from the chairman's remarks, it's because we haven't built, the first generation creates the income, but then it's lost by the third generation because we haven't built the second generation. So we need to build them with what we are doing.
Oh, engineers,
engineers come back.
Yes.
Okay.
Kindly forgive this Chinsali boy. You don't know what has happened today. I can't understand why I keep dropping. I thought the place where I am is good enough. Sorry about that. Sorry about that. So those are some of the examples of the family-owned enterprise I was able to pick up from Zambia. And I was talking about Balmoro Farm, our neighbors in Lusaka. They've done extremely well in terms of passing on the enterprise to the third generation. And they are good friends. We do things together. And I've seen what they do. It's amazing. One of our daughters was doing this last time, some industrial training with them. It's a big operation with center pivots, different things, and they do integrated farming from animal, crop, and the horticulture. Very, very interesting. So in terms of observation that I've been able to see on the Zambian market for family owned and so on the Zambian market, I've seen that it is foreign dominated. And many good Zambian-owned Zambian companies succumb to the paddy rice to pad rice proverb in the third generation, and some of them in the second generation. Where are the BY's big enterprise, the Chivotes of this world, the Shikopas of this world, the Shemis of this world? As soon as the of wealth pass on, everything crumbles. But like the statistics I was able to show there, globally, like in Italy and also Spain, it is the family enterprises that go on for generation, and that are the most dominant institution. So looking at some of the reasons back here home is that there is generally very low trust levels within families. And many families have had their fingers bent in a family enterprise by their own relations. There's also general lack of asset protection strategies in a family business enterprise, where wills are written down Trusts are created to protect these assets that have been created. Also, people live for now and lack a long-term perspective. And you can see that, and I mean, that goes up beyond 100 years. I was just with the son of the founder of Pigot Masque this afternoon in Kitwe. They've been in operation since 1961, supplying to the mines on the Copper Belt. So meeting this gentleman was just wonderful, because I was coming to talk to you about family enterprise, and he shared how this enterprise has been passed on to him by his dad, and they're still running. And incidentally, they hail out of Italy. Number 7 is that we lack an understanding of what capitalist nigger says, the spiderweb economic doctrine. And what this doctrine talks about is, the Jews use this very much. It's a compact. They buy from one another. They don't allow, when money comes in their compact, in their community, it's not allowed to go out. But in our situation here, we are porous. We buy from everyone else except ourselves. So money goes out all the time. And it's something we need to learn. It's very powerful. In the Jewish community, I'm told it's around 17 or 18 times money must circulate before it is allowed to go out. And it's only allowed to go out if you are getting something better than what your people in your community have, if it is superior. I am also seeing some cultural erosion within our nation, the rise of globalization. One can't even know what culture it is now. It's very confusing. Very well then, what are the key strengths of family-run enterprises? Number 1 is commitment, because of this ownership matter I talked about. A company run by owners
Engineer, we can't hear you. Maybe try muting and then unmuting yourself. Oh no. Yes, Connie, Cynthia, I'll share the slides, no problem. They'll be in the group chat. It's interesting though that he said the person he met is running from Italy. Why not from Zambia? Does that mean our regulations are not conducive? I'm curious to hear.
Ask that question again, Olinda.
In terms of, he mentioned that the gentleman he met this evening was working from Italy. So I was wondering whether Italy had better regulations than us, even though his family business is based in Zambia.
If I heard him correct, I think he's saying they are Italians originally, yeah. But they've been in Zambia. Yeah, they've been in Zambia since 1961.
61, yeah, that's what I heard too.
He got something on the Copper Belt and there. Yeah.
Okay.
For me, I think also it's a learning, it's a new thing that we need to learn as Zambians. The trust component, the non-building of these family enterprises. People just want to walk through and reap through the profits without really working for them. So that is what we probably need to build on. And like he says, there is protection of these enterprises that are built in. You've got those trusts, you have he mentioned 2 things. which we need to. Another thing that I've seen is we tend not to put ourselves on salaries. The money that
Yes.
the money that is gotten is more or less used as capital, but at the same time, it's an expense. Somebody can say, perhaps I need to buy something, even household, even groceries. You dip into your capital without realizing it. So
Yes,
it's
true.
something that
here
we
we are.
need. Oh, all right. Okay, let's end there.
Thank you, Florence. Thank you.
I was listening to what you are saying and I'm enjoying.
No, we are enjoying the topic, Chair. Thank you.
Forgive this, Chinsai, but I don't know what does that mean. The other strength you see in the family enterprise is the knowledge, continuity, and intellectual capital. And this we need to preserve. Very, very important, so that we can move these enterprises forward. So that's key, things we know. The other one is a question of reliability and pride. That's what you bring to the table as you run a family enterprise. So with that asset, you can do many things. The next issue is the weaknesses of family-run enterprise. One of them is the complexity. And here we see that family businesses are usually more complex in terms of governance than their counterparts due to additional new variable of the family. There are emotional issues that are brought to the table, making managing the organization very complex. So those relationships, how you entangle them. So those needs to be aligned properly so that family issues are kept where they are, business issues are kept where they are. They shouldn't be commingled. That's what brings problems. Then the whole issue of being informal instead of being formal. The way we run, say we work for organization, the way things are done.
The chair is gone again. He's dropped off.
Yeah, yes, it looks like his sound has gone. But I'm hoping it comes back. His slide is up. Chair, if you can hear us, please persist. We are interested in seeing the end of this presentation.
I think it's just the network. You can see his mic is not moving.
Okay. But there was someone on the group who had started with their children working on the farm at a very early age and primary school age. So I suppose that gets them interested in running the family business. I don't know what you think.
Well, I think it's a beginning of the family enterprise, because if they grow with it, then they realize this is where our bread and butter is coming from. And vis-a-vis us jumping in at a later stage, it becomes very, very difficult. Like Cher has said, I mean, those are the complexities of family enterprise. For me, if we begin with the children at that early stage, I think we can get somewhere. You have seen around in our shops, these Indian children, I mean, when they, or Indian origin, when they knock off from school, they're in the shops with their fathers. They are counting money with their fathers. Some as little as maybe 10 years old, they know how to take stock.
Chair is back.
Oh,
wonderful.
I wish to commend you for your patience.
We are grateful you keep coming back.
We have some interlude, or is it commercial break, which we are filling in, so it's okay.
You are a great people, you know.
Oh dear.
Some challenges in the governance structure of family owned. You know, can you see the role? One place, one is an owner, is a manager, is a family member, is a director, and so on. So these need to be dealt with early so that they are clearly defined and they're placed where they're supposed to be, so that the governance systems are you're able to follow the structure properly. Some of the key findings I've noted regarding the preservation of wealth is that number one, the history of long-term wealth preservation in many families is a catalog of failures after failure. They start well, but that passing on the baton is a challenge. And this conforms to the law of entropy, which we learned in physics, that everything is moving towards disorder. In fact, when you go to a community and you find things that are very well organized, that situation is not normal. Did you hear me, Linda?
Yes, Chair.
Because the natural tendency is to go towards disorder. That's the way we flow. So to have order, you need a lot of effort and organization and structure.
This lesson won't finish.
Engineer, you can't be heard anymore.
Why is he in Kitwe or Ndola?
Kitwe.
Kitwe should have good network coverage.
Maybe it's on the farms.
Maybe.
I must say, early in the morning today, I got a note from the office where they were saying that the network was going to be intermittent. Now, I just don't know which provider it was, because there is a problem between Zimbabwe inter-country connectivity. So it might be the broadband that he's using that is giving him the problem. We also had a similar thing at the office today.
Okay, could be.
Okay, someone needs to start selling satellite phones or satellite networks.
So I was saying we need to be working with our children. Do you see how we behave? I mean, be it on the farms, be it in these small companies, the SMEs that we are running, our children are left out. They are left out completely. They're not in the picture. They don't know what we're doing. If we pass on, then the children are stuck. And because of frustration that comes along with all this thing, then they end up just selling it, share the money, blow it up, and it ends there. So it's something I think that we need to begin to build on. We are exposed, we have seen, there's a lot of willingness now, goodwill from ourselves to say we need to improve our livelihood, if you know what I'm saying.
Yes. What happened to that company, Galoon? Are the families still active in Zambia?
Galoon, very interesting. Remember, Galoon was sitting on most land in Lusaka.
Yes, Baobab.
And I think they had come to the 99 year of the lease.
Oh.
I think Galoon, if I'm correct, they should have who's running Galoon? They should be doing some chickens. What is it called? I've forgotten the name of that company. They're running some entrepreneurship somewhere, but then they also have those two sons.
Yeah.
How it's worked out, I don't know. Yeah.
Okay. So when you say it came down to the end of the 99 years, does that mean it goes back to the government after 99 years, or they renew
Yes,
it?
more or
Yes.
less, it will go back to government, or they'll sell off to you. So you, the fresher, will now apply for a fresh 99.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Then how do we do generational wealth if even our land is going back to the government?
So you need to renew, I guess, since you are entitled as a Zambian, you probably just renew.
Okay.
Yeah, when your 99 years is coming close, you renew, and that's where your generational issue comes in, because the children must be aware. But then talking about Galoon, that's where that Zulu guy came in, isn't it? Because he managed to get some of that land, and obviously it meant that the lease was renewed. And that's why you have all these yeah.
You mean Zulu was related to Galons, or he just bought the land
Not
as an
related.
independent person?
Not related, but they went into
Oh,
some kind of
okay.
deal. They
Yeah,
must
but
have
he
gone
bought
to some
good
kind of
land
deal.
also.
But all of that was owned by the Galoons.
Yeah, I know. There's a person called Luanda Kahonga. The hand is up. Maybe Madam Kalinda, you can. Linda, you can.
Oh, you're doing very well, Dr. Chimoga. Please
Good
go ahead.
evening. Sorry, I joined late, but I must say it's a very interesting topic. I like the contributions from Madam Florence, but I just wanted also to maybe add to the topic that, I think when it comes to involving children, I think as Zambians, we are slowly learning from our Asian colleagues as Chair and Madam Florence already pointed out. But I think where I see a problem is, the complexities of our families, where you find
the chair
that
is back. Sorry
okay.
to interrupt you. Sorry.
No worries. I'll contribute when he's later.
Okay, thank you.
On number 7 there, on some findings on family enterprises, is that families failed to apply the appropriate timeframes for successful wealth preservation. The planning horizon is too short. And of course, the ambition levels are also too low. And they also managing the complexity of the internal and external liabilities on the family balance sheet. I think there's a book I did share there on family wealth. It's a way in which you need to prepare a family balance sheet that outline the assets and the liabilities of the family you need to pay particular attention to. So to successfully preserve wealth, a family must form a social compact, reflecting shared values, and successful generation must readopt these and go on. This is the time horizon we need to look at. In Zambia, for example, what is the planning horizon for our government, if I may ask?
Is that a question to the floor, Chair?
1 year, Chair. 1 year. 1 year.
1 year. Others, what have they seen is the planning horizon of the government?
It's five years.
5 years. So our short term is 1 year, medium is 3, and long term is 5 years. I would like to submit that you cannot go anywhere in life with a planning horizon of 5 years. Hello?
Yes, Chair.
It's too short. So we need to move from this 1 year planning, which is short term, to planning for one generation, 30 years. That is a short term plan. Then the intermediate plan is 60 years, which is 2 generations. And the long term plan is 100 years. When we begin to think like this, we'll be pleased to plant a tree that will take 80 years to bear fruit, and we don't even mind. We plant it because we know those coming after us will benefit from it. There's a French general who picked a copper beech tree from Southern America and took it to France and gave it to his garden boy. And this garden boy knew about copper beech tree. This copper beech tree take 150 years to grow, to mature. So the garden boy was concerned and told the general, sir, you will never have the fruit because this tree takes 150 years. The general told him, in fact, you are late, go and plant now. The man knew he won't see its fruit, but he was willing to invest, knowing that succeeding generations will come and benefit from it. That kind of planning horizon and mindset is the need of the moment for us to build generational wealth. So we need to move from this 1 year and 5 years to begin planning for one generation as a short-term plan. 60 years as a medium term and long term 100 years, and it will change the paradigm of how we do things. So in terms of practices that are critical to maximizing returns on human capital in family are: 1, begin to stretch the physical and mental faculties of your family members, because that's what they need. Stretch them, build them up. And the key is that every family must ensure that every family member has basic needs of food, shelter, and clothing. This is the starting point. And let me submit, having worked in the public sector, and this is what I noted, the greatest need there is to deal with the issue of food security. You find professionals bending corners and agreeing to things that will not take our nation forward on account of putting food in the belly. This needs to change. Then families must also adopt a policy of being lifelong learners. Very, very important. And every family member must understand their role in the family. And this must be defined and put in black and white so that everyone is beginning to contribute based on their advantage, what they bring, the specific skills that they have. And together, collectively, you build something that will last. On intellectual capital, there must be sharing of information, dissemination of information, so that everyone knows what's going on. And this must be done periodically. And feedback must be sought so that everyone is bringing to the table what they know and what they have. And the whole issue of sharing family stories, this we've lost. At least in the olden days, there used to be in Nsaka place where people tell stories of their heritage and where they've come from. They'll share proverbs. We need to tell our family stories, where we came from. Very, very important, because that brings about bonding. And the need to develop in each family member the 7 intelligence that Howard Gardner defines in his book, The Frame of Mind. Not just the IQ. IQ is one thing. There are other intelligences that have been discovered that we need to nurture and build in the capacity of those who will take over after us. And those who are showing very high aptitude, we must support them so that they reach their full potential. And they need to study other cultures. Like I heard you were talking about the Indians and how they work with their children in their shop and so on. Let's learn from them and pick those good things and apply them in our families. Only then are we gonna go forward. But also study their cultures, the things they love, the things they do, the food they eat. This is what they do, most of them, when they come here in Zambia. They study us. What do these people love and so on? And they set up meeting companies, and meeting companies are all, most of them are run by people from outside. Can you imagine? For maize. In terms of the family mission, each family member must be taught so they understand the purpose of that family and must have a common vision and values. Some things we've learned over the years, the secrets that we keep. We need to recount our history, like I've said before. Our governance structure must be structured. And the roles of each one well-defined and coordinated. The other aspect is the need to create a family bank that will provide, that will give access to the members of the family of capital to doing things. But even when they come to get, they must come with an application, with a business plan, with an application form, and then discuss with those who will give. And it must be on the terms that are better than the commercial banks, but must follow the same approval process. Why do this? So that you are able to make available loans at the appropriate and competitive rates than what the market is seeing. The idea is to keep the family and to keep the money in the family and grow the assets and improve the lot of the well-being of those connected to the family. Very, very key. And I'm happy with the rise of this village banking. I was talking to one of our family members living in the UK, and now with the family, children, they have this village banking arrangement, Chilimba, where they give money to one, and it's been growing, and they are learning and teaching their children how to save and borrow and apply the money for buying income-earning assets. The governance, corporate governance things must be structured, must be defined, because every family enterprise must know how a business will be directed and controlled, and the roles defined, the role of the board of directors, management, the controlling shareholders, minority shareholders, all these things defined in advance, because this is what will prepare family enterprise to compete favorably in the marketplace. Two major pains that we must be aware of as we build family enterprise is one, the pain of regret and the pain of discipline. And we are recommending the pain of discipline, being disciplined, building success habits over time, doing those things that must be done even when we don't feel like. This is what will enable us build brick by brick and have enterprises like the Ford, spanning over 100 years, Coca-Cola spanning over 100 years, because these systems have been built up tenaciously over generations. How do we remain principled when building family enterprise? Follow the golden rule, do unto others what you would like them to do to you. Don't cut corners, build accountability relationships, very, very important. Lay down those non-negotiable values and standards which you cannot cross in advance. There's one gentleman I recommend whom you can research, Jonathan Edwards, and the 70 resolutions that he made. He had remarkable work ethics, very, very powerful. And though dead, his life continued to speak today. And also find mentors to guide you on this journey. The other issue is, when you are starting these things, carefully plan before you begin to execute both short and long-term values and plans. And under this, there must be those non-negotiable virtues, and don't leave things to chance. Plan in advance, be thoughtful, be creative. Like Isaiah 32:8 would say, but the noble man makes noble plans, by noble deeds he stands. So look ahead and meticulously follow through all the elements that are essential to building this enterprise. And as you know, that there is no perfect time to get started. So you must have a mixture of both faith and action. And here Ecclesiastes 4:11 is very instructive. It says, whoever watches the wind will not plant, whoever looks to the cloud will not reap. So there must be a time where you start. You just do it, and you learn as you go. And let your lives be marked by integrity in whatever you do, and commit to finish whatever you start. Very important values. These will enable you build solid systems and governance arrangements that will go beyond third generation. And above all else, give your best effort to what you are doing. Even in this avocado thing, give your best effort. Follow through all the elements in terms of fertilization, in terms of disease and pest management, in terms of soil analysis, and all these things, irrigation, water management, fungal management, and keep records. Very, very important. Apply the law of sowing and reaping. Give it your best effort and sow and keep pushing. And when you are confronted with the ethical issues, in advance, draw the boundary lines of what you can cross and what you cannot cross. This is key. Be steadfast. Don't give things to chance, and be extra careful on these issues. And question whatever you are doing, and have those accountability relationships so that people are able to ask you questions with those safe relationships that you have, so that you are guided and you build this enterprise. I like what President Thomas Jefferson said on this matter. He said, in matters of style, swim with the crowds. In matters of principle, stand alone like a rock. This is what will build enterprises. On principle, stand alone. Be prepared to move. If everyone moves to the left, you move to the right alone, rather than following the crowd. So here are the key elements that I found, those enterprises that build wealth for generations, 3 generations. They have what they call a family constitution, a family charter. And those are the key elements that are components of that family constitution. That provides a guidance on how they manage their family, they manage their enterprise, they build the next generation of leaders, the code of conduct for doing things. And of course, they have also a wealth management strategy embedded there and governing assembly to provide the leadership that is needed. Succession matters are key. They've also defined in advance the dividend policy on how they will reward the shareholders. So this is just like a template of the family constitution that we need to build so that we are clear about these things to go to enable us run these enterprises. And that can be summarized here, that family constitution or charter, talking about the family, the issue of ownership, the issue of corporatizing your enterprise, and the issue of wealth management. And 5 things you need to pay attention to as you build family enterprise concerning finances are: number 1, this you must be clear how much you earn, where your money goes, that is what you spend your money on, what you owe others, liabilities, what you own. And at the end of the day, understand that you are merely a trustee to whom these things have been trusted, and then you are also supposed to be a good steward to pass on to others who are coming after you. So if these are traced, then you will be able to build this wealth. Very, very clear. Unlike where one is budgeting from the pockets, recording whatever you are buying, very key, so that you know where the money is going, where it's coming from and where it's going. And these are basically character qualities that entrepreneurs who build great family enterprises possess. They make and keep commitments. They follow daily habits. They maintain a journal of key life lessons they are picking along the way. They value relational capital, and they are generational thinkers. They think 100 years, not the 5 years that our nations are planning tied to an election. No, this we must stop. We must have long-term view of things. Very well then, what are the key steps to building this family enterprise that we are talking about, especially in the avocado space? They need to investigate before we invest. Learn about this hass. Where did it come from? Why is it famous? Where does it grow well? What is the cost involved? Am I patient enough to wait 3 years before I can have the first fruits? And I like this project on one account because it teaches you patience. 3 years. We must also even in future consider trees that begin to bear after 15 years. What that will do is you grow the stamina and the whole idea of waiting. So you begin to think long term. And the whole question of consulting those experts we have who are around so that we follow the path that will enable us we have success, which is called the principle of emulation, learning from those who've gone before us. And children are very good at this. Studying the market trends and the 6 success factors in the avocado industry. And more importantly, focus on growing the next generation of our leaders, our children, our nephews and nieces, those that are around us. And then formulating a robust succession plans with intentionality that in the next 5 years, 10 years, this is the person who take over from me. Well structures and then grooming them in that direction, getting them involved early on in life. That is the need of the hour. And of course, on the wealth management strategy, that all efforts by the members of the family enterprise shall be directed not only at wealth creation, which is the starting point, but also on the preservation of that wealth for generation to come. Building wealth is one thing, preserving it is another. So understand those wealth preserving strategies is key. The issue of writing wills, like I talked about, the issue of trusts, very, very important, and working with lawyers so that these things are done. And like what happens in most families, when the person who was building this thing dies today, tomorrow you find nothing. They will have sold things. This should not happen. We must think in advance such that even though dead, we are speaking because of the instruments we'll have left with our families. Number 4, we need to establish that the family asset must be allocated to different classes of investments, liquid assets, real estate, and in business. So, and the percentages must be assigned. How much are we going to invest, for example, in property, in business, in avocados? How much are we going to invest in shares and all these things? And the beneficiaries of those assets well spelled out in advance. And now those things will be given and distributed. And this brings me to this same point I've belabored before. Prepare ownership and ownership transition arrangement. This has to do with wills and statements and pensional policies, life insurance policies, and personal financial planning relating to the members of the family. These are key, these are pivotal. We must not live as though we are going to live a 1,000 years. No, we must structure these things in advance, knowing that we are mortals. Very well then, what then are the elements we will need to build a well-functioning family governance structure for family enterprise in the avocado industry? 1, communicating these family values we will have outlined. Remember, I talked about that constitution and the family charter and the link for long-term thinking, keeping family members well informed and devising communicating rules when we communicate, how often we should communicate. and then allowing family to come together and make necessary decisions together. So having a decision making models defined, or now you make decisions on different matters of your investment and your assets. These must be defined and will help us succeed and ensure that things go ahead even when we are not there. Define a shareholding policies, and those are the key elements. The issue of shares, the issues of liens and shares, the reserve fund, how you manage conflict of interest, the exit mechanism, and the shareholders agreement, so you are agreed in advance on what must happen. As I come to a close, I'll talk about developing the next generation of leaders in a family-run avocado enterprise. Ensure that those leaders who take from you have a job assignments with real responsibility. They're accountable and they're given opportunity to take risks so that they can see the choices and decisions they are making, how that unfold, so that they learn. And the need for us, as we do this, to provide accurate and candid feedback. I find that in our country, we are not very candid, we are not very forthright. And having worked in public sector, I had problems because I would just speak like a child, just being candid. And then people, when we leave those meetings where a pile of people where they'll say, why did you say that? You're not supposed to say that. I would just speak. Because this is what the missing element. We want to go and speak outside rather than bring things out there so that we deal with them. Creating a supportive family climate and letting every family member know that the greatest assets of a family enterprise are its human capital and its intellectual capital, the things they know, not the financial capital. Financial capital is a product of these two things. And then the annual calendar for avocado management, having this in place, the issue of fertilization, fungicide spraying, insect and pest management, root rot management, orchard flow management, tree management, irrigation, and the general management of our farms, soil analysis, land preparation, and windbreak. So these become critical, and we train our kids and months on months what they are supposed to be doing on each of these elements. Through that, we'll have empowered them so that even if we are not there, they know what must happen in January, what must happen in February, what must happen throughout the year. So having this kind of arrangement is important. What then are the takeaways as I close? Number one, avocado being a generational investment requires robust governance system that would defeat the paddy rice to paddy rice in the third generation, where companies, we can't find them in the third generation. This we must defeat. We also need to recalibrate the investment planning horizon from this 5-year long term that even our government do to 100 years, short term 30 years, medium term 60 years, long term 100 years. We need to appreciate that family enterprises are the backbone and the main driver of growth in many economies because they bring to the table pride and ownership. Like we've learned already that a company run by a family of owners does better than those by hired hands. We have similar experiences. You are far off and you've given people to run it. You go there, you just find stories. We need to understand that by their nature, family businesses face many additional challenges. So let's dissect those challenges and then deal with them one by one. Confront them so that we are able to build this enterprise that will go beyond ourselves, beyond our generation, beyond second generation, beyond third generation. Like we've seen some of those global enterprises like Ford, they've been around for years and they're still going strong. because of these systems that they've put in place. As I close on this one, there's one nugget I want to leave you from Mensa. It says, the wealth of a nation does not reside in the abundance of its natural resources, but in the wisdom of its people. What we need is wisdom. Let us learn from those family enterprise and make progress. I thank you, Linda.
Sir?
There ends my presentation.
Thank you so much. Do we have any questions for Engineer Chiwala? Please unmute yourself and ask a question while I look on YouTube.
Chair, I was making a comment just before you came back. I just wanted, maybe, I don't know if you can comment on how best we can engage extended family, because I think there's not so much of an issue of with engaging children, you know, from the main household. But when it comes to extended family, I think every typical Zambian family has, you know, maybe relatives in the village who are doing nothing. And it's common practice for many people to bring, you know, those that are just idling to say maybe they can help out on the farm. So how best can we ensure that they're part and parcel of this enterprise and they're just not being used as laborers, because they tend to, you know, just contribute their labor, but then in terms of the whole ownership, it's really not there. You find that sometimes disputes come in, other times there's just recklessness because they don't feel they're really part of the ownership. They are more or less just like laborers. So maybe your comment on that.
Thank you. We need to have family meetings for which they'll be part of, so that they learn and understand our chemistry and our philosophy about things, so that we begin to pass on those values that we've picked up, and then begin to show them in terms of the asset in them, so that they don't see themselves as just laborers. Begin to build their self-confidence, begin to build that they have assets that they are bringing to the table, and then begin to give them responsibilities and showing them clear relationship between performance and reward. If they can appreciate that, because we get so much value out of doing something, they must not understand. One of the problems I see here, I don't know where it came from in our country, where people see work as punishment. There's dignity in working hard. So that's a message that they must imbibe, must pick, that there's a relationship and working hard and doing these things. That's the reason we are here. We are here to, like the Bible would say, go and rule over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, over every living creature. We are here to responsibly and manage and dominate responsibly, so that we take care and do our assignment for the season we are here on earth. So it will require a lot of family meetings, I must say, so that you begin to shift their mental maps and push to them the values you've picked, the values of hard work, the values of being honest, the values of being accountable, rather than just being taken as hired hands. I think that's what we need to do. It's the training, the teaching, and then involving them with small things, and then increasing periodically. They can change, they can improve.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Did anybody have a follow-up question? Mr. Ronald Chanda wants to know if we're going to share your presentation, sir.
Yes, we'll share.
Okay. Thank you.
It's a research I'm working on. It's not finished, but what I'm finding is very interesting. It's an area we really must work together and push this agenda of family enterprises. So it's work in progress.
It's very interesting. It's very interesting. You've got a lot of comments from YouTube about how interesting it is. And Agatha Ponde says this is very interesting. And then we've got Konde Kalfungwa, point well supported chair by the repeated presentation. And then very thoughtful and candid presentation from Trevor Hamwala. So thank you, sir. Anybody else on Zoom who has a question, please unmute yourself and ask a question.
Chair, since you've confirmed that it is a research, just a quick comment where you say social compact. Is that supposed to be a social contract? Because I believe as a family, you can sign a social contract, which of course then would have to be entailed with the charter and the constitution.
What's your name, sir?
Oh, Chris Kampam.
Thank you.
Yeah, and then the governance issues also, Chair, as you prepare your research, I think if we're really serious about this, we should also engage IOD to start talking to families to help establish proper good corporate governance in homes, and especially for businesses, family businesses. I mean, you've given examples of how many have collapsed, and I'd like to believe that much of that is because of this same lack of corporate governance. And one key thing you've also mentioned is the value, to feel valued, to feel part of the whole thing. I think that's also a very key thing for a family member to feel valued and to know that they have a role to play. And as long as they play their role, they should be on the payroll. And yeah, anyway, you've brought up a very, very good number of things that we need to look at. Thank you very much for the presentation.
In fact, the last point you make, sir, we recently recruited one of our daughters, just finished school. She started engineering and she's on the payroll. So that we implement what we are talking about, other than just use them for that. She has a specific assignment running the Moriah Gardens there, but she's on payroll. And she has a task, and we've given her specific targets. That you meet this target, this is your bonus. This is what you get. And it's exciting. So there is time for family issues, but also time for the enterprise. And the issue on the compact is basically a contract where you agree on how you run this enterprise, defining your roles and responsibilities. And also in that compact, you also put up the non-negotiable values that you live by, so that anyone who is found managing your things, they know the line they can cross, they know the line they can't cross. So those are defined in advance.
Thank you, sir. That was very eloquent. Mr. Mtonga, please go ahead with your question. Unmute yourself, sir.
Hello. This
Hello.
is Temwana from Lumezi Eastern Province.
Thank
I
you.
was following the presentation, and it kept me thinking about how best the constitution or family charter can be drawn. I would also like to find out maybe how one family would handle where one family member perhaps errors or goes against the constitution. How far would it be possible to go in terms of, during the presentation, Engineer Chiwala mentioned about, you mentioned about the issue of performance and rewards, but how far would you advise for a family to go in terms of meting out, I don't want to say punishment, but the opposite of rewards. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, you will have had those expectations clearly spelled out. But if you perform, this is it. If you don't perform, the way we do it in a corporation like this, if it's a demotion, you demote them. If it's taking out something, you do that. So that there's a place for the family and there's a place for where the enterprise must be run based on the governance structures that are sound. If we don't do that, we just look away, we will not go far. Our enterprise will collapse. But let's use family members. We tell them in advance our expectations, they subscribe to them, and we run. Look at the Italians, 94% family run, contributing to the GDP. That's powerful. Money circulating within families. That's what we need.
No, thank you so much, I think.
I've got a question. So when you're doing the research, were most of these agricultural projects or was it a combination? Thank you, sir.
It's different enterprises. Some are family, like the Simon Zukas, who are in the third generation, it's an agriculture enterprise. Then, like the one I met today, they are into factory in Kitwe, and we had nice discussions. And the others globally, they are from motoring, transport. So it's all mirrored. It's wide, but the principle work regardless of what you are doing.
Thank you, sir. Did anybody else have any questions? I'm not able to see any raised hands at the moment. If you've raised your hand and I can't see it, please unmute yourself. Nkondo again has said, Chair, please consider engaging like-minded kin on LinkedIn. And then also they say there will be others who are thinking similarly around the challenges we face in Africans and Zambians in particular. We are willing leaders and can be invited too. And that was from Kondo Kalifungwa on YouTube, sir. We've got another one here, Mr. Zhao Roy Kaonga. How does spirituality come into play to motivate the end result? Is there an element of spiritualism in growth of income corporately? Thank you. To you, sir.
Well, speaking for myself, much of what we do is founded on the Bible. It becomes the reference, the source of our values, the source of the principles, the source of those non-negotiable values. That's where it starts from. And these are things that we must pass on religiously to our children so that they are solid and sound, that they don't just move to every couch and things that are coming, any trend that's coming on the market, but they weigh them carefully, premised on what they've been taught. But the key thing is that we must teach them from their homes, not from schools. The schools and colleges have their place, but the solid principles that will make our children stand out and live life of impact in the marketplace or even in our family enterprise are taught at home. So these, we must have a syllabus and teach religiously day in and day out. And we must start early if we don't do that, because when they become 19, 20 years, they want to be independent. They want to be far from you. But if they've been groomed over time, then you find that they learn these things and work together. So when they are young, let's invest our time in teaching them. In fact, one Jewish proverb says that if you do not teach your children some life skills, then you are indirectly teaching them to become thieves.
Wow.
Yeah, because they've not.
Yes, sir.
Please go ahead.
Okay. Agatha Ponde says LAMCS is a family setup of 400 plus. Now, how many people are listening to this interesting discussion? My point is that if at least more than half of the members could attend, this could be effective. Thank you, Chair. That's the last of the questions from there. I don't know if you want to comment on that, Chair.
Okay. Remember what I said, that if on non-negotiable matters, if 100 people go to the left and it's an issue of principle, you go to the right. So it's not the numbers, but it's a belief system of those few. Once they take, then they'll become infectious as people see results that are coming. That will be my comment.
Thank you, Chair. Unless anybody else would like to come off, I'd like to give you a few seconds if you want to ask a last question so that we can end in good time. Okay, I've got no questions. Thank you so much, Chair. We appreciate you taking the time to vigilantly keep coming back when your network was bad. As you can see, we can see it's a very, very riveting conversation, and it will be something that will be discussed for a long time. So we look forward to hearing your paper, sir. Thank you so much, Engineer.
Thank you. Appreciate.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good lessons.
Good
Thank
night.
you.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.